Oh, the microphone is off. Holy crap, guys. 1 second, everybody. There we go. So what is a web show? A web show, this is Scrappy. This is not games. It could be anything. For instance, our web show for Forensic Friday is going to be about forensic science. So guys, I am so sorry about the microphone. I had so much stuff going on here right at the beginning of the stream, trying to get everything finished up that it just escaped me. But yeah, so a web show is just where we it's kind of like a talk show a little bit. But we're going to be focusing on science, specifically forensics. So guys, this is going to be our part 1 of 2 for fingerprints. We've talked about crime scenes, we've talked about evidence, we've talked about the history of forensics, all in our previous shows. What's up, Fanatic? My Friday is going fantastic. It's been a busy one. It's going to be a busier Saturday, but I'm excited for that. It should be a whole lot of fun. But anyway, guys, what I was saying before I realized that my microphone was turned off was that I have what's called a Google Classroom for this particular web show. An exclamation point class is how you get the information at. For me, it's Friday, Bio. It is Friday, 9 p.m. So some of you guys from around the world, you may be in Saturday already. I know some of my friends in New Zealand, they're probably well into their Saturday already. Yeah, it's Friday. I can't believe it. So that Google Classroom, by the way, guys, you just go to classroom.google.com, and when you do that, you got to make sure you log in with a Gmail account. And when you do, there will be a plus sign. Well, I'm going to show you guys a code here in a minute. It's also here in chat that you can add, and you can get access to a bunch of resources. Everything that I show you on screen today, as well as some additional stuff that you guys can kind of practice at home, or you can go and look up some of these important dates and histories and stuff. I just kind of put that out there for y'all as resources if this is something that you might be interested in the future. Okay, I have a degree in forensics. I love this stuff. Some of y'all may be interested in going into criminal justice or just like this kind of thing. So it's really pretty freaking exciting, especially in the time we are. Science is booming, y'all, and science is putting more bad guys away than anyone could possibly imagine right now. So anyway, guys, let's go ahead. We are right now in the front lab. This is the lab where we bring everybody in, we kind of show them around. It looks like the CSI television show, so they get all excited, it's so cool. But it's not where the actual science takes place. So before we can actually go to the real lab, we got to glove up. And like every time, we glove up so we don't contaminate the evidence that could be back there. So let's get on our gloves today, because contamination is the #1 enemy of anyone who works with evidence on a case. This is why police, detectives, and the scientists who work on it, they all have to glove up. There we go. And the last little test. Good, got the glove pop. So guys, let's go on back to the real lab. Alright guys, so we're here. This is, well, let me roll up the let me turn off the projector. Let's roll up the screen for a second. This is what a forensics lab is more likely to actually look like. It's not going to be this fancy, dark, glass everywhere kind of thing that you might see on TV. It just doesn't work that way. A lot of times it's grimy, it's dirty, it's full of all kinds of nasty things like people's entrails, brains, blood samples, urine samples, all kinds of stuff. But that's because this stuff, we're gaining information from it. So even though it's nasty, we need it. So like I was mentioning before, we have our Google Classroom. So let me guys give you that code one more time and show you kind of what that looks like. So here's our projector. Let's turn it on. And let's make this a little bit bigger. So this is the code that you will need in order to get into that Google Classroom. And what is on there? It's actually quite a bit today. So let's minimize this. We'll come back to it if anybody still needs it. But right now, just today, I posted this. We have 6 resources for you guys to kind of look at. We have some key terms. We have fingerprints for you to practice your identifications with. We have a 10-print card from the FBI, at least an old one, an old copy version of. We also have some things that go into more of the details of fingerprints we're going to get into in part 2, but all that kind of stuff is still there. So in this Google Classroom, this is from today, for today's episode. Episode 4 is right here. Here's everything that I shared with everybody on screen. Same thing with episode 3, 2, and 1. So this is where I kind of put that stuff for you to access whenever you feel like it. So yeah, guys, that's what that is. So if anybody needs that code one more time, let's display it up. Let's make it nice and big. But you're going to go to classroom.google.com, hit the plus sign up in the corner, and then put in this code, and that'll get you access to everything. So, pretty easy. All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's put that away. And let's get into what we're going to be talking about today. And what we're going to be talking about today is fingerprints, everybody. And, oops, wrong thing. I don't know why that did that. Give me a second, everybody. I don't know why it switched and did it that way, but we're going to fix it. There we go. So anyway, guys, we like to start off with, when I can, some quotes for you guys. Some of these quotes can be right on topic. Some of them have nothing to do with the topic, but they apply. So it's pretty cool. Fingerprints cannot lie, but liars can make fingerprints. So just kind of a silly little quote that has been out there floating around the world about fingerprints. We don't know who made this one, but it definitely fits, because fingerprints are some of our best evidence we can possibly get in a crime scene. So to start off, you guys, we're going to be kind of hitting 3 things that we hope to understand by the end of today, and maybe a little bit more, because I'm adding some stuff to this. But why are fingerprints called individual evidence? I believe it was episode 2 or 3, we talked about class evidence versus individual evidence. Individual evidence leads you to one single person or thing in this world, whereas class evidence leads you to a group of things. So like the particular brand of t-shirt that is in that certain color. There could be millions of those, and it would be hard to get one fiber connected to one shirt out of everyone that exists in the world. But when it comes to fingerprints, we can get that down to one person. Okay? Second thing is, why are there no fingerprint evidence, why there may be no fingerprint evidence at the crime scene itself. Okay? You don't always find fingerprints. You don't always find fingerprints of the things you are looking for. So that's pretty important for us to remember. And then last is how computers have made this identification process easier. So we're going to talk about how the FBI used to actually categorize people's fingerprints when they would get them done by police, and then they would be shipped into what is called AFIS, which was at originally FBI headquarters, and it was a big filing system. And we're going to talk about how computers have helped make that a little bit better. Okay, a couple more things you should be able to do. We can define 3 basic properties that allow individual identification of fingerprints. How do we obtain inked readable prints from each finger? That might be a little bit more on part 2, because that's our physical thing. Recognize what the ridge patterns are, the 3 different kinds. Identify the characteristics that compare 2 prints to see if they are a match or a mismatch. We're going to explain the difference amongst latent, plastic, and visible. Okay, when we describe prints in these ways, what does that mean? And then the last one is, how do you develop them? How do you make these invisible fingerprints visible? So, I'm looking forward to it. I love doing fingerprints. It's really super cool. Alright, you guys. So, a couple of things here in the beginning. So, there are ways that we can record and classify our prints. Okay, we can do what's called a rolled print. So, if this was my paper, and here's my print of the person, I'm actually physically taking the person's print and I'm rolling them, okay, on this piece of paper. Then we have to identify the loops, whorls, arches, and then the actual individual characteristics within those prints. And then we get what was called our primary identification number. Okay. Now with lifting prints, we can do all kinds of things. We can use powders, black, white. We can even use these fluorescent colors. We can also use chemicals when things are on something like paper where we can't really dust it to make it show up. We have to use chemicals to make it come out and show. So we use things like ninhydrin, iodine, silver nitrate, and cyanoacrylate. Well, cyanoacrylate is just a fancy name for super glue. And if you've watched any CSI, you've seen them use super glue before, and it's actually pretty cool. It's a simple process, but very toxic. And then, of course, what are some other types of prints? There's more than just fingerprints. We can have palm prints, your palm is just as unique as the rest of your fingerprints. We also have your lip prints, teeth impressions. Your eyes actually have a print in them. This is where the biometric eye scanners come in, your retina. Your ear is, in fact, actually unique. Your voice print, okay, how your voice, the frequencies and the vibrations of the air that is created by it. We also have shoe prints and, of course, footprints. More specifically, on the footprints, your bare footprints have a ton of information that we can actually identify somebody through. So a bunch of different things here, guys. So we're going to kind of glance through the history a little bit, okay? There's a lot of people we could talk about, but a lot of this is just to kind of give you an idea of where did we come from when it came through what we call dactyloscopy. Okay, dactylo meaning finger. Okay, that's why a pterodactyl, that's where they got their name, because they had a single finger. But dactyloscopy is the study of those, of fingers, more specifically fingerprints. So Herschel was our first one from about 1850. He required that the Indians put their fingerprints on contracts. And then he used fingerprints as a means to identify prisoners in jails. This was during the Wild Wild West days. As we fast forward, let's talk about Alphonse Bertillon. Okay, he is an idiot. And because he's an idiot, we now understand better what is the truth and what is not. He is known for proposing the idea that if we were to measure different parts of the body, so like from the top of your head to the bottom of your jaw, from your shoulder to your elbow, and then your elbow to your wrist to the end of your middle finger, all these measurements, if you took all of them of a person, that those would be so different from person to person that you could actually identify a person by them. And we called it anthropometry. Well, turns out this was total bullshit. Like, not any good. So, the Alphonse, even though it was kind of laughed at as a scientist and a lot of those things, he actually helped us, because there for a long time we thought he was right. He never found anything that broke up his theory. But through finding that it was false, okay, now we know more and we know better. Let's see, Edward Richard Henry, skipping down another one, he kind of collaborated with the previous guy, Galton, and they based what's called a primary classification scheme based on if you had loops, arches, or whorls on specific fingers. We're actually going to use the Henry system and kind of demonstrate that here in just a little bit. I can't ever say this one, Vucetich? I don't know. I'm bad with these foreign names, you guys. But his fingerprint classification system was based on Galton's with some slight changes, but it was used more in like Mexico, Honduras, Spain, a little bit of Portugal. He just kind of developed his own that those countries decided to go with instead. Alright. Ladies and gentlemen, I am trying to kind of go through this a little bit on the faster side today. This way we're not sitting here on one slide. So I want to show you a couple of different things throughout today as we kind of get a little bit deeper. But fingerprints are individual characteristics. No two people in this entire world have the same fingerprint pattern on them. You may have the same details in their fingerprint pattern. Their patterns could be the same on each finger. If I have a loop on my index finger on my right hand, you could also have a loop on that particular finger on the same hand. But the details of the lines, the ridge characteristics, those are going to be different. And that's what we actually look at to decide if someone's fingerprints are found at a crime scene. Now, what's amazing is that your fingerprints never change. Okay, your fingerprints never change your entire life. The only thing that can actually cause your fingerprints to change is if you have scarred skin. Okay, like if you got a deep cut and it healed and you now have a scar there. Some very severe burns can do this as well. But most like simple burns, like burning yourself, right? Burn them off. Well, burning them off, you gotta burn deep. You gotta get like almost third-degree burns, my friend. They're super hard to go that far. Because what happens is those burns don't go down to the lower layers of the skin, and from there, your skin is able to heal back the way it was originally. This is why if you've ever touched a stove and burned yourself, your fingerprint might go smooth, but then eventually it'll come back. So they're quite resilient in that kind of way. They're like tattoos. Kind of, sort of. You do, like, you have to get to the bottom layers of skin there, Day and Dub. That's where you're going to have the most, like, things happen in your fingerprints to change them. And I've been looking for it. I cannot find it. But if I do, I'm going to share this during part 2. There is a man in the, I want to say, like, the 40s and 50s who tried to remove his fingerprints. He was a criminal up in, I believe, Chicago, but I could be wrong. I gotta look at his dossier again, because it's been a long time. But he tried to do something. He went to a back alley doctor, and I've got his actual, like, FBI photographs and fingerprint cards, at least pictures of them, and I can show you guys and see, like, what it actually did when he tried to do that. But Day and Dub, how are you, my friend? Thank you for coming by the stream. How's your Friday treating you today? Doing good. How about me? Man, I'm doing all right. I got to get ready. I'm moving my parents tomorrow in this 107, 108 degree weather. So tomorrow's going to be a rough day, but today has been actually pretty good. We've been busy. Been really busy. All right, so let's continue, everybody. So remember we talked about that's what you work in? I hear you, dude. It's freaking insane. Now remind me, Day and Dub, remind me, what do you do? I'd love to, I'm forgetting, and I know you've told me this before. Forklift operator. Okay, so you're in a big warehouse. So there is no air conditioning, right? I'm pretty sure that there's very few of those. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, those things you open a door and turn on a fan, maybe. Do you work in one of those like huge like million square foot warehouses, or do you work in like those some that are a little bit smaller? The bathroom has AC. There you go. The bathroom in the office, if there is an office. It's a real big one. All right, dude. I got a buddy who just started a lot of that work, and yeah, it's hot as hell. He's doing it for Coca-Cola. Alright, but guys, earlier we kind of talked about this dude, Henry. Okay, Henry figured out a way that depending on what is on your fingers, we can kind of make a identification number for every person. So this is kind of how it works. You start with your right hand, and if you have what is called a whorl pattern, we're going to look at those here in a minute, on your right index. Okay, so this is my right hand, right index. You're going to earn 16 towards your number. Okay, it becomes a fraction, actually. So it'll be 16. Right ring is 8. Left thumb is 4. Left middle is 2. Left little is 1. Okay? Then we have the right thumb. We have the right middle. We have the right little. Left index and left ring. Okay? All of those, you take those numbers. If you have a whorl, you earn those points. Then you add 1 to it, and you put that top number over the bottom number, and then that gives you your identification number. So if you don't have a whorl on those fingers, you earn 0 points. So it's kind of an easy thing to follow if you can just remember which ones go where. And we're going to look at this here in just a minute. Okay? Now, I know we've kind of talked about, we all kind of know that fingerprints help us with a lot of these things, with identifying people from crime scenes. Well, what we actually look at are called minutia. Okay, it's the details. That's what the word minutia really breaks down to being. And we have, these are just a few. So the first few, let's bring the laser pointer in here so you guys can see better. We got the ridge ending. Okay, ridge endings are, we've got this ridge going and it stops. Islands are just a small little ridge. They're kind of all by themselves and they're very small. We have the bridge that connects two of the lines that kind of go with each other. Excuse me. If you have a circle, a ridge that just turns into a circle and keeps going, that's called an eye or an enclosure. And then deltas. We're going to talk about deltas. Deltas make this triangular shape. These are very important when we come into actually identifying what prints we have on our fingers. So we're going to be looking at these again in just a minute. The bifurcation is the most common minutia found in a fingerprint. I mean, you can find hundreds of these if you look close enough and long enough. So these are a lot of times what we look for in a print because they're easy to find and we can mark a lot of them. All right, we have the dot, we have the spur, we have the double bifurcation where one bifurcation, one of those then splits again. Okay, so it's like split once, then it splits for a second time. And then the next one is called a trifurcation where it splits into 3 all at once. So pretty freaking cool when you find a trifurcation because those are unique. Those are kind of rare. You don't find those too often. And you usually got to look pretty close. Okay, so now here are some real life examples, you guys. So a double bifurcation right here. We have this ridge coming in, it splits, but then one of those ridges splits one more time. A bifurcation, we've got this one coming, it splits into 2. A bridge, we got something that makes this ridge and this ridge come together. We have the dot, we have an island, except for the arrows kind of covering it up. The core is just the very center of your fingerprint. We also have this scar. Okay, scars are important to remember. Deltas, look, right here. This one is going to be important in a minute. The triangle shape. You can draw a triangle through it, and it's like you have 3 points. That's a big one. So, a bunch of these can be found. If you look even closer, you can find spurs and bifurcations and ridge endings everywhere in even your fingerprint. Alright. So now let's actually talk about the 3 types. Okay, so how are you going to know what type of fingerprint you have before you go looking at the individual characteristics, the minutia? The first is an arch. Arches, if you're looking at the fingerprint you take, start on one end and end on the other. They go all the way across the finger. Okay, they do not have deltas, and they don't really have a core, like a very center area that everything is like swirling around. And we have 2 types of these. We have what's called a plane, which is where everything kind of looks like paper. There might be a small little hill in the middle, like you're seeing here in the picture. And then we also have the tinted arch. The tinted arch is actually where the centers come up real high, like a 2-pole tent. Okay, I don't know if any of you guys did, but did anybody like camp out in a 2-pole tent with like a tarp over the top? That's what we're talking, that tinted thing. Alright, let me get rid of this laser pointer for just a second. There we go. Okay, loops. Okay, loops have 1 or more ridges that start from one side, they enter in, they loop around the center usually, and then they exit out the other side. Okay, not all of the ridges do, but quite a few of them do. That's going to be one of your big telltale signs, is that actual looping action in the center. Now, if it's hard for you to tell in a fingerprint, guess what? You can search for the delta. Okay, loops have 1 delta on their in that print. Okay, and it's going to always be on the opposite side that the loop is coming from and exiting. It's kind of like a barrier. So if you got something coming in and it hits a wall, it's going to go up. Okay, and it's going to splash over and go back out the same way it came from. So that delta acts like a wall in how these ridges look like they're flowing. So pretty simple. Alright, and then the next one is called a whorl. These things have like what we call a central pocket, okay, a very distinct center area. There are many different kinds. We have the double loop whorl. We also have the accidental. So some of these can get a little bit hard to tell what they look like. Now, how do you actually tell? Okay, go back to the deltas. Okay, whorls always have 2 deltas. One on the left, and then one right over here on the right. Okay, those are important. So right here and right here. I know this is probably hard for you guys to see, and if you are having a hard time, please feel free to speak up, you guys, while we kind of talk about this, because I do have some things for you guys to look at on that Google Classroom that you can download and print off, or just look at yourself. It might make a little bit more sense. Okay, but here's just a list of the types. I actually have a double loop arch on one of my fingers, and hopefully here in a minute I can actually show you guys that. Okay, so here's what they look like side by side. Okay, you can notice that they have some distinct differences, but these are like perfect case. Okay, perfect case scenarios. Excuse me. So the FBI, okay, our FBI, before we had computers, you guys, had to take all of these fingerprints, these arches, loops, and whorls, and had to figure out how do we, like, indicate in our records on this criminal stuff which ones are him. Like, what's a faster way for us to go through? Because these cards were entire sheets of paper, sometimes front and back. Okay, a 10-print card had all this information at the top with their prints at the bottom, and sometimes you had handprints across the back. So how are you going to go through thousands, if not millions of these in the FBI records and actually, like, do something with them, okay, and actually be able to get these out to police departments all over the country so that they can actually use them to catch the bad guys? Well, they used that Henry system. So each finger was given a points value. Now this is a little bit different. The FBI did it differently. On the right hand, 16, 16, 8, 8. Okay, the little finger was worth 4. Go to the left hand, we had 4, 2, 2, 1, 1. And then of course, just like we saw before, we had to add 1 to each of those to kind of get that. To get those numbers. So here it is one more time. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually tally mine up for us so you guys can see how it works. Alright, now you're just going to have to trust me. We are going to take off the gloves. We normally don't do this in the back lab. We've got to take them off to see. Alright, so the way you take off gloves officially, okay, especially if you work in science and you don't want to get contaminated or get things on you, you pull from the cuff and unravel it so it turns inside out, ball it up into your other gloved hand, do the same thing, grab the cuff, make sure that it goes inside out as it comes out, and then now you have this nice little glove baggie. All your gloves are here, and you can save this stuff if you need to, because sometimes you might need to go back and test it, especially if you find contamination, see where did it come from. So CSIs always save their gloves. They bag them all up. Okay, we're going to toss ours for now, because we don't need them for the rest of today. But let's start with the right index. So my right index is a loop. I see one delta, ridges come in from one side, loop around, go out the other. So I get 0 points, okay, for that one. Okay, right ring is also a loop. Okay, 0 points. Left thumb is a loop, 0 points. Left middle, okay, 1 delta. Yep, that's a loop, 0 points. And then my left little is again another loop, so 0 points. So my top number for this classification number is going to be a 1 on top, because I had zeros and then +1. Now my right thumb, we come looking, I've got 1 delta on this side. I've got a second delta on this side, so I have a whirl. So the right thumb is going to be worth 16 points. Okay? So right now with this spot, I'm working with 16 plus right middle, which is a loop. So 0, right little, loop, 0, left index, loop, 0, and then left ring is a loop and it's 0. So 16 plus 1 is 17. So my number officially, okay, for the FBI identification system, if my pen would write, oh my goodness, this thing writes every other time, is a 1/17. Okay, that would be my identification number in the FBI system, the way it used to be. So, kind of time consuming, right? You got to look at each of somebody's fingers, or you got to look at the paper. You got to tally up these numbers. You got to remember what each one's worth, and actually do it that way. And then you had to file them based on the numbers. So I would go in a file that was 1/17, because there would probably be others that had that same ratio. This was kind of our first way of narrowing down from millions of fingerprint cards down to just a few. Alright, now once we've narrowed it down, we're actually going to look and see, did the prints I pulled from the file at the FBI match the suspect from the crime scene? So I've taken their prints, the suspect's prints. I've got my card that we had that we think is going to match with theirs to prove that they are the ones that were there. Okay? We're going to look at the minutia. Now, the United States does not have a standardized number of how many things you have to match in order to say that you do have a positive match. Now, judges typically do not accept fingerprint matches that have less than 8 points of similarity. Okay, 8 points is a small number. With how many different minutiae you can find in a fingerprint, 8 is small. So usually it's between 8 and 12, because if we look for like 20 in every single print, I mean, that's time and that's money. That's a chance for somebody to get away with the crime that we definitely don't want. So we have to be reasonable. Okay, forensics is a little bit more about being reasonable than being 100% thorough. So we don't have the time to be thorough. We're trying to catch bad guys. All right, very cool. So with all of that, let's kind of do a quick recap. So we've talked about what is in a fingerprint. Okay, they never change. No two people are the same. We kind of talked about the minutia for a minute, which we're going to hit more closely later on. We talked about arches, loops, and whorls, what makes them those different patterns. Remember, looking for the deltas. So arches have 0 deltas. Loops have 1. Whorls have 2. Okay, kind of here's a look at them side by side one more time. Okay, then we talked about how the FBI classified them, and we figured out that number, and then how do we compare them. So, at a crime scene, what's important to know about fingerprints? Because a crime scene, you don't have a person usually. Okay, you're trying to pull them off of things. You're trying to find fingerprints that are invisible. Well, let's talk about what they are. We have the latent prints. Latent meaning invisible. Okay, they are developed from the actual secretions. Okay, sweat, dirt, oil that is that comes from your skin. That's what makes a fingerprint. So if your skin has no oil on it, are you going to leave a fingerprint? Well, the answer is no. Okay, unless if you've done something totally different, like dipped them in paint. Okay, if you were just to touch something, you're not going to leave a print. Okay, and that's kind of important to realize. And as a forensics person or a crime scene or detective, you're not always going to find prints, because one, could be wearing gloves. Duh. Okay, 2, maybe their fingers don't have enough sweat and things on them. So there's all kinds of stuff that affect whether or not we're going to find prints at a scene. But we have 3 main glands, though, that really do apply to the fingerprint being made. First is the eccrine. Okay, it's largely water. We have things like inorganic and organic molecule compounds that come from it. Okay, so this is mainly water. The apocrine, okay, this is what secretes pheromones. Okay, this is one of the ways that pheromones get put out into the air, since we are animals. Then we have the sebaceous. This is the fatty and greasy substance, the oil on your stuff. Okay, so those 3 come together to make a fingerprint. Okay, plus dirt. Now, how do we develop those prints? Well, we develop those prints and make them visible. That's what that means. We're going to make latent, invisible stuff show up. All right, so we're going to use powders. Okay, we can have things like black and white powders. We also have like bright greens and yellows and oranges. That way they can glow under black light and be a little bit easier to see. Depending on what we're working on. If you're working on a white truck, like in the picture you see here, we want to use a dark powder. If you're working on something that's painted black, you might want to use white or one of those fluorescent colors to make it show a lot easier when you're doing it, or when you're pulling it, so you can pull the right ones. Now, powders, they stick to the water and the oil in your fingerprint. All right, the color again is just for contrast. Now we can use another way, some chemical techniques like iodine. Iodine, okay, if we kind of heat it up and the fumes come up, it's going to react with the oils and the fats. Okay, and it makes this yellowish brown color. The biggest thing with these, though, is that they don't stick around forever. Okay, they're just not there for very long. So you have to be able to photograph or find a way to preserve those prints as best you can. Alright, and we have 3 more. Ninhydrin. Okay, ninhydrin is a pretty noxious chemical. It will hit you in the face and kind of hurt you a little bit. The ninhydrin reacts with your amino acids, the proteins in there, and it changes purple. Silver nitrate is another one of these. This is actually quite toxic depending on how much you get on you. And what it does is we create chloride to form silver chloride, okay? And it will turn gray when it's exposed to light. So that's another way to make those show up. And then the last one is we're going to actually use what's called cyanoacrylate or superglue fumes that stick to the water of the fingerprint, and then we can then dust it a little bit to make it show up even better. So this is good for when fingerprints are absorbed into things like brown paper bags and stuff like that. It's pretty important actually in our process. It's really easy. You just do have to have an airtight container to do it in. So these modern labs, we're also developing new ways like lasers, using laser lights to find fingerprints and to mark them. But lasers can also damage the retina and the eye. So, and they're expensive. Okay, and things that are expensive, you know, you have to be real careful with. Okay, so here's some examples, guys. Here is iodine. Okay, that came out really nice. These would be like perfect examples. Ninhydrin, you see it kind of turns that purplish color. You see this one smudged. Okay, so the oils and stuff there were more on this fingerprint than what we could do to get the details. Okay, and then the super glue, the cyanoacrylate fingerprints. Okay, these come out and they become this like whitish color. Okay, and you can dust these further to make them show up even better and for collection with like tape and stuff like that. Alright, now what are the other prints? We kind of mentioned these before, but lips have their own pattern to them for every person. Okay, the electronic pulses measured on a spectrograph of your voice is quite unique. Okay, we also have your foot, okay, your shoe prints, okay, friction ridges on the bottom. We also have the size of the foot and toes. And then the shoes, okay, of course, the sole, the brand, the size, with the year that they were made. The wear pattern, like are they more worn on the outside, inside? It's kind of like tires. Okay, your shoes are the tires of your feet, and they have specific wear patterns as well. So just a whole bunch of different neat kind of stuff. Alright, and then of course, we get into the palm print. Okay, the palm print has all these creases. Each one of these creases is unique for every person. We also still have those ridges, those little lines all in there. So we now, okay, if a police department knows what they're doing, they also take palm prints as well as everything between the palm and the actual fingertip. Because you never know how useful that's going to become, and the more information we have on file, the easier it is to access later. Alright, another example of the footprint for you guys, so that you guys can see. By the way, the reason why on a birth certificate, and a lot of times at hospitals, that they take a footprint rather than a handprint on a new baby, because there's no ridges. The ridges are very tiny on their hands. Okay, they're not enough to even show up if we were to put ink on them and press them down. But the foot has these nice wrinkles and some of those details we can actually use. We started doing this in like the 50s and 60s when a lot of babies were being kidnapped from hospitals, like directly from parents. People would walk in, say that's my baby, they'd hold them, and then they'd go out with them. And there was no way of tracking them down. Then hospitals and police got smart, and they started becoming common practice to take the footprints of newborns. This way, if a newborn was taken and they were investigating, if they found a newborn with somebody who was a suspect, they could compare the footprints, and then those footprints would allow them to know if they have the right person or not. Alright. Ooh, ear prints. Okay? Ear prints are pretty crazy. You rarely run into them, but just like this example of a case gives us, this is actually from an actual case. But a man was actually convicted of suffocating an elderly woman because at the scene he had put his ear up against the window, and when they took the print, because the oils and stuff were left behind and they matched it to him, he was actually able to be convicted for that. Okay, so even ear prints, the way, the shape that they are, can be used. All right, teeth. I did forget that we were going to talk about teeth. Teeth and the imprint are definitely a big way because everybody's teeth grows in differently. They're different sizes. Things like your incisors, the sharp ones, those things can be longer or shorter depending on who you are, and that's a big deal. Okay, so you can actually test this by doing exactly what you see here. Take a piece of gum and just bite gently down on it, and you can actually see your imprint. So you can even press it onto your teeth. Oh, blood vessels. This is a good one. This is a really good one here, y'all. Alright, biometrics. Okay, fingerprints is a biometric. It's a measurement of the body that we can use to lock and unlock things. The retina, okay, the back of your eye, where the blood vessels come from your body to provide blood to the rest of the eye. That pattern of veins, okay, can actually be read and be used as a way to lock and unlock doors because those things don't change. Okay, those vessels are not going to move around. And so the exact pattern of those blood vessels in the back of the eye become like a unique fingerprint in their own right. Okay, so last couple of things, you guys, and then we're going to keep moving. AFIS. AFIS is what we currently use today. It's what it was called back in the day, but it's called the Automated Fingerprint Identification System. Now, I believe that they've added another letter to this, but I cannot remember it off the top of my head. But anyway, it basically means it's the same thing, they just renamed it. But this is a computer system where they store all the fingerprints from all over the country. Okay, a police department, if they take someone's fingerprints, they scan it into their computers and they can then send it to AFIS. Well, in the future, if let's say the same police department or a different one is looking for someone and they have a print from a crime scene, they can scan that in, and that scan will then compare that one to every print that's inside of AFIS and try to see and get it down to at least if not one person, to a few people. So we can use it to search these large files, like these large databases, whereas before we had to search through actual filing cabinets of thousands of prints in the 70s before we had computers. And to compare one print out of all that, okay, it would take forever. Okay, you'd have to send off. You got to worry about snail mail and all that. So it was a big deal that in the 90s, okay, this AFIS database became available. So iAFIS, there we go, the integrated automated system. All 10 print cards, the ones we talked about before, are all over the country, are put into this. Now, 10 print card, what the heck are we talking about? Well, right here, you guys, this is an example of a 10 print card. So let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. This is a very basic form of this, okay? But this would be what the police officer would when you're getting booked, would fill in. Your last, first, and middle name, any aliases you have, who is being printed would sign, the signature of the person doing the investigation would sign, and date. Okay, what is their sex, race, height, weight, eyes, their hair, place of birth, date of birth, all this information. Okay, are they right or left-handed? And then inside these boxes you would roll each of the prints. Okay, and rolling these prints can be quite difficult. Okay, especially to get them done right. So this is why the #1 rule on doing fingerprints is that you do not let a suspect or a person of interest or anything roll their own prints. Okay, they have to have someone who is trained do it for them. So they have to sit there and let somebody manipulate their fingers, okay, to actually get a good print. And to be honest, it's just more reliable that way. A fingerprint person is usually only allowed about 1 to 2 mistakes on a 10 print card. If not, then they're usually go up for review, and they may or may not be able to have that job anymore. That's how serious they take fingerprints. Okay? So, pretty interesting, you guys. Pretty serious, too. Alright, now one of the things I wanted to show you guys, kind of like the resources I've included, or I can include, is some of this practice. Like right here, this particular one is one I used to give my students when I taught this at the high school, and they had to decide, are these arches, loops, and whorls based on the information given. As you notice, they're not all perfect prints. Chaser H2O, I'm glad you like it. What's up, Fluffy Bunny? Guys, welcome to the stream. How is everybody? But we're just talking fingerprints, you guys. Fingerprints and the basics. This is going to be part 1 where you kind of get the information about them. And part 2, probably after I get back from Chicago next week, we'll actually be sitting down and I'll be showing you a lot of these techniques and doing them for you so that you guys can practice at home and actually get to do this. You're back from a bad injury? Fluffy Bunny, what happened? Hopefully you're okay. I mean, I'm glad to have you here. But what happened, my friend? What's up, Moodads? How to remove them? Oh my gosh, you guys, how to remove prints. Well, we kind of hit that in the beginning, so if you give me just a second, Moodads, I will see what I can do and maybe give you some more information. I might have to go searching for some stuff, okay? So, anyway, because I got a guy. I got an FBI, a small bit of an FBI dossier on a guy who tried to do that exact thing. But yeah, so in my Google Classroom, broke the toe playing football. Oh my gosh. I wouldn't say that that's a terrible injury, but that definitely is a bad injury. It definitely hurts. It hurts like a son of a bitch. So, anyway, that's that, you guys. So we finished up there. I'm not going to go through this, because we did talk a lot about this already, but developing prints, you guys, was a quick review. We do have some other names for prints called a patent print, a plastic print, and a latent print. Latents are the invisible prints, okay, so that's that category. Plastic prints are when prints are put into a soft material like a putty. So if I put my print into the icing on the cake, that's a plastic print. But the other, if I have something on my finger, okay, and I touch a smooth but hard surface, then definitely, that's a little bit different than the other one. Baylor, what's up, Golden Zombie? What do you mean Baylor? That's where I went to school, I will tell you that. Do you know about Baylor? Not a lot of people on Mixer have. Let's see, guys. Let's go back through. Powders. Ooh, I forgot about magnetic powder. Those are pretty cool. Those are fun. We also have the anhydrous, where it makes a little purplish. Okay, we use this a lot on paper. I think we've talked about all of this. Iodine fuming. I used to have one of these. Pretty cool. Sikkim Bears, indeed, dude. Golden Zombie. How do you know about Baylor? How are you a Baylor? Noam or whatever you call it. But yeah, that's actually where I got my degree in forensics, you guys. Was actually at Baylor University. So again, the Google Classroom, you guys, I have this up there for you guys to kind of practice if it's an arch, loop, or whorl. If you would like, you can message me there and send me a picture of what it looks like, of what you think the answers are, and I can definitely answer those when you have time. And again, I also put this in here to practice some other stuff. Right, Moodads? I will tell you this right now, dude. Okay, I have visited my local crime scene lab. I have a degree in forensics. I used to teach forensics. I could get away with murder in my little town, where I'm at. Okay, I have about 140,000 people. I know I could with enough prep. And that's weird. It's weird to think about. Let's see. Day, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the Rugby League. Thank you for joining Forensic Friday today. We're kind of wrapping up. Oh, you're a Texan, Gold Zombie? Nice. Well, yeah, if you're a Texan, you definitely know about Baylor and all the crap that they're going through. You're down in H-Town? My wife was living in H-Town when we met. We met at Baylor, but her family lived there. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I think you're better off just streaming in your spare time. Yeah, Moodads. Getting away with murder is expensive, you guys. Really expensive. But yeah. So guys, I think that's going to probably wrap it up for us today. I do want to see if I can bring it back. Let's see if I can get this to work. So if you guys could follow me with this, we're going to bring up a page here. Actually, let's do this off screen because I got to switch some info. Don't want any personal stuff going up. Here we go. But yeah, guys, right here, if you put !class in chat, you get the instructions on how to join our Google Classroom. It's this easy. Classroom.google.com. Okay? Type in that exactly into the top of your search bar, hit enter, and what's going to happen is you're going to come to something that looks like this. You may or may not have anything here, but this plus sign. Okay? You want to click this plus sign. You're going to hit join a class. You don't need to do it. It's optional, Moodads. You know this. You know this. But anyway, in here, can you still have an A? Maybe. Maybe. If you keep coming back to the stream, I can give you an A. You do have to show up. This is an attendance thing, okay? Gotta make all of your attendance. But when you get here, okay, you're gonna need to put in the code that was put into chat, and here it is one more time for everybody. So if this is something you want to check out and you want to see, like, take the what I've shown here on stream, and you want to look at it on your own time or kind of dig a little deeper, this is the place where I'm posting everything that I possibly can. Okay, guys. So just make sure that if that's something you're into, go for it. If not, you don't have to. Okay, that's the beauty of our world. You're not actually in my class, so you're not getting grades. You'll be back? Alright, well, I'm going to leave this right here, Moodads. And guys, while we do this, I'm going to take a quick little break. I'm not going to go too far away, but I'm going to at least leave this up for you guys so that you can join. So yeah, so anyway, I'll be right back. Alright, y'all. Apologize for that little break, handling some stuff. But anyway, so hopefully everybody had a chance. Does anybody still need the code? You can also hit !class in chat, and that will get it for you as well. But to kind of give you a little tour, what I do is the further down in what this is called the stream you go. It's really interesting when you explain forensics. Well, thank you, Chaser. I love this stuff. Like, it makes sense. It's easy. I don't even have to think about it, and half the time that's why I forget the names of things, because I just know it. But I just can't remember the official, like, fancy name for it all. But this is why I wanted to do this here on Mixer, is to bring this to some people who else might be interested or that might be looking into this. Do you change your pro pictures? Good question, I know. Golden Zombie, you have to do that from the Mixer page on a PC, like on a computer or something. I don't think you can do it from the mobile app. You could try the mobile app if you download it to your tablet or phone. You might be able to do it, but I don't think so. But if you just go to mixer.com and you sign in with your Xbox credentials, it'll definitely work. What's up, Soft Minotaur? Welcome to the stream, my dude. How are you? Yeah, Golden Zombie. I think that'll take care of it. You just go into the manage. You'll see your picture, or you'll see your picture next to your name on the side, up at the top right. Click on it. Go to manage profile or manage channel, and you'll be able to do all that kind of stuff there. But Soft Minotaur, how are you on this Friday, my dude? We're kind of wrapping up our Forensics Friday stream. We're talking about fingerprints today. This is part one where we kind of gain the information, and then next time, here in a couple of weeks, we're going to come back and revisit it, and we're going to actually show you how to take prints and things of that nature. So it'd be pretty cool. Glad to hear it, dude. Hopefully your Friday is good, so that we can go have a great weekend. That's going to be exciting. But anyway, the Google Classroom, like for today's episode, here's some extra resources. If you want that 10 print card, you can print it off yourself. Some extra stuff about the minutia, some practice looking at that, some terms, a term list, so if you forgot what they mean. Sweet, Soft Minotaur. Nice. So anyway, and then the further down this stream you go, so here is episode 4. Then I had a little question for everybody. Then we had our episode 2 and episode 1 stuff go up on here. So this is where I try to put everything for you guys to access. I know it looks kind of small for most of y'all right now. I can try to make it a little bit bigger, but it just kind of looks like a social media page. But it makes it really easy. All right. So let's X out of there. And I guess we're ready to turn off the projector. So here we go. Let's turn off the projector. Okay, now we gotta actually roll up the screen. So here we go. Hit this button. There it goes. Took a little minute. What am I in? What do you mean, what am I in? I am in a forensics lab. I'm in my forensics lab here on Mixer. This is kind of what, Fluffy Bunny? Sorry, I didn't. It's kind of what because you're young and you're in a forensic stream. Now, guys, I will say this. In high school, they offer this class along with some criminal justice stuff. So if something like that is interesting to you, then most definitely hit that up. And if you forgot to type it, that's okay, Fluffy Bunny. But anyway, guys, I'm going to take us back to the front part of the lab, okay, where we kind of show off to the visitors. So let's go ahead and go up there and let's wrap up, and we're going to get into some games here in just a minute, okay? So here we go, everybody. Let's go ahead and head up to the front. All right, you guys. So this is our our CSI style lab, okay? Really cool, neat looking. I like it a lot, but can't actually do science here because it's not practical. Do I play Fortnite? I do not. I do not. I am not a Fortnite fan. It's not my game of choice. So I don't really play it. So yeah. So just so you know. But anyway, so what's gonna happen, guys, is we're gonna take a quick break. For those of you who are tuning in on YouTube, make sure to check over. I believe it's on this side. Nope, it's on this side. Go check out the previous episode as well as the playlist. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys next time for another Forensics Friday. Y'all take it easy, and I will see you next time. Peace.